Okay, everybody, I checked this sim, just checking to see if I have some audio here for you. I'm going to be doing a screen share. This is the lecture for this week, which would be week 3. I'll just scroll on down here. I'm over here in Canvas, and you're going to see some stuff. This is the instructor view that I'm in. And as I promised, each week I'm going to give you a short little lecture and then another case that I'll look at, and we'll record it, and that'll account for those additional hour and a half or so of class that we don't physically meet, and that's so you'll get your seat time, if you will. Now I scroll down here. Of course, this is week 3, and it's 6/19/73, and you can see a lot of the times, really most of the time, excuse me, you can follow the exams to tell what chapters or what I'm really focusing on. And this week you had an exam over Perelson chapters 2 through 4, and I'm going to just take a few minutes to give you a quick, what I would call, guided tour. And by the way, I want to make sure that you're aware. Let me scroll back up here. That I have a file over here that has all of the PowerPoints for Perelson, and it's in a zip file. Here it is, and it has all the PowerPoints for all the chapters. In the event that you would want to use that as a study aid, or it's just something to get a quicker overview. And I'm gonna and what I'm going to do quickly here is kind of a guided tour over what I think are some of the highlights in the text, and then obviously the exams or the quizzes cover things. And then I like to also I will go out to the New York Times or the LA Times or Wired magazine or somewhere where I think there's something that I want to bring to your attention. And I also, during the week, will try to send you a link or something about something I think is of value out in the world of IT. So don't forget, as I mentioned, there is a zip file there for you, and for the course PowerPoints for the Perelson text. In fact, I've got them published. I'm going to go back here to the home and go back to the modules and scroll back down here, and of course, as I mentioned, they're here in week 3. This is we are in the week of the 19th, which is week 3 of the course. And I want to take just a few minutes to spend some time on kind of a quick overview of chapters 2 through 4, what I think are the highlights. And since this is recorded, you can certainly play it back, and you may want to have maybe a sheet of paper with you or a notepad, something as you jot down, as I mentioned, particular pages or whatever. If you want to keep lecture notes of sorts, you don't have to. It's just a suggestion. But I also want to have the opportunity to expound on them a little bit more and let you have it in a video. So if it's something that's of not interest, you can scroll forward or whatever. I'm over in chapter 2, and I think a key part over in chapter 2, and a lot of times these little lectures, I'm going to focus you on the tables and the figures, that is summarizing on the material. I think figure 2.1 is very, very accurate. That's over on page 48 in Perelson. I would say this: I think there's a 6th era now, and that 6th area is what I would call the era of the cloud and the Internet of Things, and we're just now on the cusp of all of that, and we're really seeing a lot of changes. And you could go through all of the different of those categories, like primary role of IT, justify IT, target of the systems, information models, dominant technology, basis of value, underlying economics. And I'd say the cloud is in what I call era 6, which I think is around 2010 and forward. Certainly, I think the underlying economics of that is the the amalgamation or the conglomeration or the amalgamation, if you would, or of information and information things. And I think we're seeing that come together in every way you could imagine, in terms of wearable computers, in terms of all the software that's embedded in cars. So I would say I'd look, there's a sixth one there. And so I think we're kind of now at a point where we have a Web 3.0 that's developing. Now, I think another really tremendous tool for you, and something I think is really worth putting in your brains, is over on page 53 over in the Perelson text, and that's where the Porter's 5 forces are outlined. And then I don't think you can read it faster than I could ever talk about it, but figure 2.3 walks you through industry competitors and the 5 forces, those 5 forces that Porter says determines the competitiveness of an industry. Now, you need to understand something, and this is a good time for me to talk about it. Porter is, when we talk about company strategy, okay, strategy is also one of my areas of specialization. You kind of have 2 types of approaches or philosophies out there. One is what I would call nature, and the other is what I would call nurture. Nature, nurture. Some companies will say we have the greatest people, the greatest talent, we have the best business processes, etc. That's what gives us value. That's how we utilize IT. Okay, we leverage it to support our mission and through supporting and fulfilling our strategy. Now, on the other hand, there's what I would call the nurture kind of the nature kind of approach, and that is that really industry strategy is dictated by industry conditions. Okay, and Porter is of the nature that is the context determines a company's strategic initiatives, and then of course how you fit IT into that. And that's why you're going to see throughout your MBA program, the Porter model, the 5 forces, you're going to run into it time and time again. It is the dominant thought process, and what Porter would say is that if you're how you use IT has got to be predicated on how your company shapes up with the 5 forces. So I think that's a very, very, very important piece that you want to take a look at. Chapter 2 also gives you a tremendous amount of information about a company called Zara, Z-A-R-A, and how well they've done at using technology in their supply chain management. And the text gives you some great verbiage and coverage of that. And I would encourage you to go out and take a look at Zara. You're probably, if you go out and do a search on Zara, you're going to find people who've posted some reports on it. Maybe they posted a video, they've had a class, they had to do a case study. There's a lot of that stuff out there, and there's some really good things out there for you to see. But Zara is one of these companies that really has mastered the use of IT as a key piece of their business diamond in order to increase turnaround time. They're in the fashion business, and they can create and turn around new types of clothing styles much faster than the competitors. Ordering, understand what's going on in their retail operations, etc. So I think Zara is certainly well worth the value chain of the firm. Over in figure 2.5 over in Perelson on page 55 is tremendous, because IT can really have a significant impact on supply chain. And I think you'd want to also take and then look at figure 2.6 over on page 59. Okay, and as you can see, um, the value chain has some primary activities, and then you have some support that goes on, and there it is: organization, human resources, technology, purchasing. You see how they support, and then they elaborate some more of that on figure 2.6. So I think that supply chain management is really one of those touch points where there are some great opportunities for companies to utilize information technology, and the text goes into some of that. The text talks also about strategic alliances. They're over there in chapter 2. I think is certainly worth the time to take a look at. And some of you did the Lear case study. I'm over in the case studies, and I'm very, very happy with all the case studies I saw. All of you did a good job. The Chapter 3, it talks about the organizational impacts, and it moves and starts with one of the very first important points, and that is the decision rights around information technology. Who owns the data? Who gets to use the software, the hardware that's provided? How much training is there provided? But this issue of decision rights is really important, and it's exceptionally important in terms of privacy of data, as we're seeing that whole discussion evolve. And so I think it's worthwhile for you to take a look at over on page 78, figure 3.1. They talk about different design or approaches to organizational control variables in terms of their how organizational information is controlled. They give you and the book walks you through types of structures of companies. So, and that's not anything you're not going to get out of a management textbook. So what we're doing here in chapter 3 is the authors are taking this typical approaches or to company strategy and the decision rights around information, and layering that over, a matrix organization, a networked organization, one that's more standardized with levels, chains of your classic type of bureaucracy. And I think that the text does a good job of taking and walking you through that overlay, and so there's a lot there that's of some use. I think over on page 91, over on figure 3.5, the cultural dimensions, and those that figure has some interesting insights for you to have. The key piece of chapter 3 really is at the end of chapter 3, page 92 and 93, and the authors Loudon use this term, immediately responsive organizations. And that really is what IT is designed to do. Now, I'm a person I work primarily with company strategy and analytics. And so I understand about databases and spreadsheets and projections and planning and all that business. And I can tell you that companies are undergoing an enormously, at times, stressful experience just simply trying to keep up. As I mentioned before, and we talk, and you have a book on big data, there's so much data out there, and so much of it is real time. The companies are just really swimming in it, and they're not quite sure what to do with it. So we're going to see more and more that, and it really started with inventory, just-in-time inventory, and we're going to see just-in-time marketing, and this notion that a company is immediately responsive, okay, that they can change course in their strategy and do things within weeks that used to take months, maybe even years. And that also involves product design, customer relationship management. So there's a lot of good food for thought there. And I think page 92, as they walk through the 5 disciplines, okay, and talk about that as the zero time organization. They talk about those 5 disciplines, and that really, those really give you some, I think, some overarching themes that IT gives it a conceptual overview that fits in perfectly with the business diamond that we talked about before. Now, chapter 4, you can probably hear me going in the turn of the pages. Chapter 4 talks about information technology and the design of work, and I think it's important for you to understand that if you've not had the experience you're having now, where you're taking a class remote, you're listening to this video, you're taking a test online, you've been assigned to a team now, and you have this virtual team that you're part of, and you're doing this, we're creating virtual teams to do the group software projects, and I just sent you some stuff out about that. This notion of virtual teams is exceptionally important, because what we're seeing is that because of the globalization of education, particularly at the post-secondary level, we're seeing that talent now is spread all over. And if you want to kind of get a really in-depth look at that, Thomas Friedman's book, The World is Flat, is an excellent source to learn about that. And again, how that changes things. And then over in chapter 4, the authors talk about how IT can be used to support communication collaboration. They go through some things like some tools, instant messaging, VoIP, voice over internet, okay, video teleconferencing, we've done that. RSS, file transfers, VPNs, social networking sites. We're doing a little social networking. You have discussion boards created over there. You had a team meetup. Then each team now has a discussion board. So we're trying to exemplify some of the ways to get that done and to kind of fit in with the chapter. Frankly, if you want to really see the summary of the chapter, go to page 114, figure 4.2, and that really does summarize, okay, everything how information technology is changing how people work. Now, I say this, I credit the authors in making certain that they don't treat virtual organizations and virtual work modes, etc., as a panacea. It's got its advantages, it's got its disadvantages. Some of you like to come down to the BGCO on Monday nights and have class. Others of you can't because of distance and time. There are some of you who can, who make a choice, and even though you can drive to class, you don't. And that's when IT gives people when IT gives companies and employees that kind of flexibility, then it's doing its job, because it's used as a tool, it's used as a mechanism. This lecture capture that I'm doing here, this screen, is really just one of those. And it's a way for me to record comments, etc., for you to look at and play through and play back and so forth. The technology acceptance model over on page 126 in the Perelson text is a very, very, very important, and it's probably the most well-known model outside of the S curve of innovations that is used to talk about how is it that people will adapt and use a new technology. And it's a real challenge. And some of you who did the FBI case, for example, saw that here's an organization that is very siloed between its various regional offices, and the challenges that they had trying in the FBI to get everybody on the same page. So there's some important things over there in terms of the design of work and how we can use IT and to use things like virtual presence, use discussion boards, wikis, all of those tools that are out there that companies try to utilize as social media to augment their work. And what we're finding is that because big companies are basically global for all intents and purposes, they have to use this technology in order to keep people connected. Now, there are always challenges, in the book. It gives you an honest appraisal of what those challenges are. Now, I wanted to also take an opportunity to visit with you some about your case follow-ups. They're going to get better each one you do as you go into Canvas and you see the bullet points that I ask you to address. If you really want to know those are the things to address. And I saw some really excellent ones, some that could use a little shoring up, but that's okay. You'll learn that as you go along. And as I've said before, it's an informal writing exercise. I'm not using it to beat you up about your writing or beat you up about utilizing APA in a correct format. They're not papers. They're more of a memo style. But the notion is to get you to think about that case, but in a way differently than when you're just reporting what's there. But is there what's happening? Has that issue been resolved, or are things going on? I want to take just a couple of minutes as I share the screen, and I'm going to go over to Google, and I'm going to look for the New York Times. And I read the New York Times online quite a bit. And you'll always get some interesting stuff there. The business section, I think, is business, and the technology sections are the two that I take a look at the most. And what I want to find for you is going to take a look over here. I thought was a very interesting article. Here it is. This is a very interesting article. It talks about how Jaguar Land Rover is using games phone games to look for potential employees. And this is kind of not too different than the kinds of things that people like. Well, Mark Zuckerberg, if you ever seen the movie, about the start of Facebook, those people had they had coding parties, and you saw the craziness where they all can I get loaded, and then go and do the programming within 2 minutes if they want. And if you can do that, you can be part of Facebook and all that kind of craziness. Well, interestingly, here's a very old company, Jaguar and Land Rover. Of course, the two firms have merged, using phone games as a way to look for talent. So I think it's interesting, and it certainly is well worth taking a look at, and get obviously a chance to see how they have changed. And notice where it talks about that they used to use. What I think is interesting is they used to use job fairs, and they're in an expansion mode. Is the article. So that's the article. It's over at the New York Times, and it's one that's well worth it. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to save that link. And I'll put it down here in a notepad, and I'll send these out to you if you should want to read them. And I'll get that. And of course, I'll need to go to Bitly to get that thing shown in certain. And I'll post this over in the announcements area for you. I thought this is just a fascinating approach to looking for employees. I'll go back and one or two other things I wanted to take a look at. Again, I'm going to go back in the sections. I'm in the business section. The business section of New York Times, like I said, is exceptionally good. They have Deal Book, which is the place to find out about M&A, excuse me, economy, energy, markets. And then here's the tech section. We'll take a look at it real quickly. And I thought this one was a very interesting article. Here's Amazon, okay, letting customers try on clothes before they're buying it. And I thought it was really worthwhile for you to take a look at this. So I'm gonna save the link and put it in my notepad, which I'll post later, okay? And there's the, and this is, and I'll take them out to bit.ly, so I'll shorten them down. Now, as this article notes, okay, Amazon's not the first company to do this. There are others that failed, but what they're trying to do is to utilize their funding, that is through Amazon Prime. People pay, I think it's $99 a year or something. And so if you're a member of Prime, you can try stuff on. If it fits you, if fine. If it doesn't, you send it back. Now, let me say this. This is a fantastic thing, okay, because it really does take the internet and shopping for clothes and transform it into a fairly painless experience. I would say this: we are going to come to the point in time with phones, and there are some phone apps out there, et cetera, where you'll be able to get a picture of yourself, or you'll have some digitized tool that will allow you to get clothes completely tailored to your tastes and tailored to your body fit and how you want them worn. And you know, it's, again, this is Amazon making a move to go beyond books. And so I think there's an interesting thing. Now, if you see right here on related coverage, Walmart has just bought a menswear company, okay, for $310 million. So here we see Amazon getting into clothes, then Walmart's buying a men's clothing line. And as I said before, you see these two, they're shaping up. These are the two big dogs in the block, and we're going to see who might be the winner, or maybe they will coalesce into what typically happens in these industries. We have two or three oligarchies that emerge. So I thought it was some interesting data. And then there's something about their custom clothing patent. You might want to take a look at that. Again, this is from the New York Times, the tech business and the technology section. And the as usual, there's some interesting little things for you to take a look at. But I think, it's worth your time to come over every now and then and just take a look. And you don't necessarily need a subscription. I think they'll let you see so many a month. But I wanted to alert you to those as well, in terms of what I think is something to take a look at. Now, and again, this thing about clothing really does fit in with Zara. And Zara, in that case, as you read it and you read the text, its discussion of Zara, you'll find here is a ground-based company that's utilizing technology. Here comes Amazon, a technology-based company that's now trying to deal with the physicality of selling stuff. Ultimately, it doesn't matter how good the website is, you got to get the stuff to people, and they've got to buy it and they've got to use it. Shoes, for example, are notoriously bad for online retailers, because people will order 2 or 3 pairs of shoes in 2 or 3 sizes because they're not sure about the sizing. And there's some sites out there that you can take a picture of your foot, and they claim they can, get you get you a perfect fit, etc. But here we have two companies, and notice how I've said before, IT's changing strategies, okay? And here is where IT is being used to help Amazon deal with the physicality of the real world of selling stuff, the concrete world, if you will. And then and the text talks about Zara, this company that is ground-based. It has retail outlets trying to use technology to leverage and to hit that point. So I think some interesting stuff for you to take a look at. I'm going to pop over for a moment to the LA Times. Always like to hop over there and see what they've got going on. And I think the entertainment page is a really good one if you want to get a feeling of how technology is changing that industry, and it is in a tremendous way. And one of them is, for example, here's I think this is just fascinating. A series, a television series created by Netflix. What we're seeing happen is these companies that were content aggregators, Amazon, Netflix being two of them, Hulu, are moving more and more into the realm of becoming content creators, creating television shows, creating series. And we also have this phenomenon out there called YouTube, where we have people who are basically creating their own channels, creating their own readership. And of course, Google's certainly selling advertising. When you got 500,000 followers, Google's going to be selling advertising to somebody based upon those profiles. So I think that was, this kind of caught my eye when I went over there today. And I thought here was something very interesting. A senator, she's a senator from California, was using Spotify, and this is to pay homage to Black musicians. And here's a Spotify, which is a music service, being used as a place for someone to make a statement of some type or share their information about themselves. So I think it's going to be very interesting to see what's going on. And again, here is a content aggregator, HBO, which at one time just simply, it was content. They sold movies. You'd go to HBO to see a movie. Now HBO. And of course, one of the really broke the ice for them was The Sopranos, that series. Here we see they're right out there with NBC, ABC, CBS, the movie production companies creating their own content. So I think it's useful for you every now and then to see it. Here's Fargo over on FX, another one of these channels. So I would encourage you to come over and take a look at it, and you'll see some of the paid posts down there, I think, that are worthwhile. Again, just to take a look at the sections there, and we look at the entertainment section. Here's the business section, okay, and you'll find sometimes some very interesting articles about tech companies and what's going on for them. And again, here's pretty good about talking about mergers and acquisitions, purchases going on in M&A opportunities. And here's where the Murdochs, Rupert Murdoch, Fox, trying to purchase Sky, which is a service there in Great Britain. And again, just and I think this is a good article. I didn't take a look at it. Was on net neutrality, and you need to take a look at that and figure out what it's all about, and form your own opinion about what net neutrality it really means, and the implications it has for consumers, and that it might have for businesses as well, because it certainly is a big, gigantic issue. And here is one of these. Uber, just we talked about that, how IT creates business models, and Uber, of course, has got some big problems. It's a ride-sharing service, and they're out in the news quite a bit. But this is one of these situations where they're using technology to disrupt what was, the cab business. And now you want to Lyft or ride, you use Lyft or you use Uber. This is so different than Airbnb, where you can rent a place to stay in New York or Los Angeles or somewhere. So again, I think it's worth your time to see some of those. Well, I don't want to belabor this too much, but I do think that it's worth your while to come over and take a look at these. And I didn't want to beat it to death, but I did think that it was going to be worth your while to see. And here's a little pop-up ad, which we don't need to see. And anyway, folks, that really is kind of the lecture. And I hope you have a good one. I will see all of you online later today sometime. I'll go through some case study and get us ready on that. So thanks a lot, everybody. I'm going to stop the recording.